If you are a Jane Austen fan, today's vlog is perfect for you, because in this video we are visiting a once-in-a-lifetime attraction that has never been opened to the public before that is also related to Jane Austen. We are visiting the place of Jane Austen's death. This historic home is open for the first time in 250 years. This is for the celebration of the 250th anniversary of Austen's birth, and the doors to this quiet, unassuming property in Winchester are open to the public for only a few weeks this summer, and it was here in 1817 where Jane sadly passed away. In this video, I will be sharing with you the house, the rooms, the atmosphere and interiors of this largely untouched home. It is a glimpse into the final place where one of England's greatest writers left her final mark. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlotte and this is Charlotte Shelves. I film bookish related content and literary lifestyle videos, and I upload once a week. Please take a moment to like, comment and subscribe to my channel. So today we are in Winchester, and the address that Austen passed away in is number 8 College Street. Winchester is a city with an astoundingly rich history, and today we are focusing on the literary historical aspects relating to Austen. We started the day with a walk through town along the glorious river Itchen, and that flows through central Winchester. And as you walk alongside this river, you see glimpses of beautiful period houses and homes and gardens that back onto the river, and I like to imagine which one I would choose to live in if I had the money. And you also get to see at the same time these incredible historic city walls that run parallel with the river. Winchester is a walled city, meaning that a common defensive tactic was employed by walling the city in, as it was a formal settlement, and the defensive walls here are nearly 1800 years old from the Roman period. A small bit of this is still preserved, so as you go along this walk you get to see that too, and these have been maintained in much later medieval periods. Although much of the visible remnants today are medieval, there have been many repairs as we go. So when you arrive at College Street, you are first invited here at Winchester College to start at the Porter's Lodge, which is a stone's throw away from the Jane Austen address that we're visiting. But you are invited to the college's Treasury Museum first to look at the Austen at 250th exhibition before being guided to number 8 College Street to tour the actual house. So you wait in the courtyard, and then you visit the museum, and then you go through to see the Jane Austen. Whilst we were waiting in that little courtyard, I could just see that the leaves were starting to change with colours, and I was filled with just a tiny bit of joy for the impending autumn, because that is my favourite season. And being in beautiful Winchester and looking forward to a day of seeing this historic Austen site just felt really special, and I was so delighted to have the day off work to actually come here and visit it. So the exhibition here, it educates you about both Austen's family history, but also how her family were sort of intrinsically deeply linked both to the college at Winchester, but also to the city, because a number of her nephews and family members attended the college and colleges here in Winchester. The museum had a rare books and special collections exhibition on, as well as some other cases with other pieces. It had some good first editions and second editions of some Austen novels, and it also contained one of the only surviving examples of Austen's writing, in which she was transcribing the work of another author called Catherine Maria Fanshawe. So we can see here there is on display one of the, if not the earliest, biography of Austen by someone who actually knew her. This is the biography of Austen by her nephew James Edward Austenley, who was also linked to Winchester College. His memoir of her is it's a very affectionate depiction of his aunt and his memories of her, but it is very sanitised, it is domestic, it is restrained, and it creates quite a tame portrait of Jane. It's quite well known in sort of Austen circles that this has shaped a very demure, conservative and an enduring image and legacy of Austen. Later biographies have since challenged this. They have probably challenged this narrative, and they actually honour her intellectual capabilities, the complexity of her wit, Austen's ability to write satire, and how her works were perhaps quietly revolutionary. And it also is interesting because a lot of modern biographies actually talk about her literary radicalism, because she had an emphasis on women's agency and their intellect, and the importance for women to be educated and well read, and that really goes outside the limits of what her original and earliest biography created as a narrative for her. So we then also spent some time looking at this exhibition. It was in a gorgeous space. This part of the college is a converted barn, I think they said from the 1400s, and it's been really sympathetically restored. It's got, as you can see, these gorgeous thick beams, exposed brick walls and glass panels that allow for lots of natural light. And the volunteers stated that this exhibition space is open all the time for members of the public to visit if you want to pop by. We were then directed down to 8 College Street, and as our tour group waited to be admitted, I could feel there was a small frisson of excitement and anticipation to actually go in and see this house. I could tell most of the people in this group were Austen fans, and we were finally getting to go inside and see this place. When I walked in the front parlour, which is the green room, my initial impression was how small the space was. Some of the interior walls have since been taken down over the years, but I can imagine even with those walls it would have felt even cosier. The tour guide stated that this building has remained relatively the same since Austen's passing. It's an 18th century house that was most recently used for teachers at Winchester College, but prior to this it had its own history as being as a shop that sold sweets. So the reason that Austen was brought here was because in 1816 her health was in decline. She had a number of symptoms, including fatigue, pains in her back, and it was starting to make it harder for her to write or even manage her daily activities. One of Austen's main biographers, Claire Tomlin, in her particular biography, states that all her willpower was deployed to resist and deny the illness. And I think in the biography particularly, it shows a quiet fortitude in Austen's personal character. She had been fighting this unknown illness for over a year and striving to continue writing letters and also working on her novels, really. Austen's nieces visited her in April of 1817, and they noted, there's a quote from them that says, her niece wrote, I was struck by the alteration in herself. She was very pale. Her voice was weak and low, and there was about her a general appearance of debility and suffering. By mid-April, the decision was made to accept the care of surgeons and doctors who were more experienced, and these were based in Winchester. So at the time, Jane and her sister Cassandra had been living at the cottage in Chawton, and they decided to take lodgings at number 8 College Street. Jane and Cassandra had a friend called Elizabeth Heathcote. Along with her family, they helped organise these lodgings and the move to get this additional healthcare, but also Elizabeth Heathcote's diaries and letters, in addition to Cassandra's, provide glimpses into Jane's last days. For example, Elizabeth wrote in her diary, Monday, Jane Austen worse, I sat up with her. Tuesday, Jane in great danger. Claire Tomlin's biography covers a more extensive description of Austen's passing, but I personally find it distressing and upsetting to read about, so I have not produced it here for the purposes of this video. We are fortunate in some respects that Cassandra's writings described Jane's last moments of passing. Some of these quotes and extracts from her diaries are shared in the museum. Jane passed away in her sister's lap on the 18th of July in 1817. At the time, Cassandra wrote, quote, I was able to close her eyes myself, and it was a great gratification to me to render her these last services. Jane was 41 years old. Cassandra, as was traditional after Jane had passed, she cut a number of locks of her sister's hair for her to keep and for her family and to pass on. One of these is actually currently kept by the British Library in London, having been passed down by family members. Was personally feeling some pangs of sadness, realising this was indeed the space in which she had left. There was quite a different atmosphere in the upper rooms. I think a lot of guests and patrons visiting at the time that it was a much more, the bedrooms were a space for sort of quieter contemplation, and we were sort of soberly realising one of the greatest writers in English language had passed away here. I'm sure as much as many of the guests there were visiting out of curiosity perhaps, I think many of us were also paying a literary pilgrimage to her place of death, and I think many of us at the time I went with friends and stuff as well. I think we were just peacefully reflecting while we were there on what Austen had meant to us and what her works meant to our lives, really. The museum had also encouraged their visitors to celebrate and reflect on Austen's life, and they had printed out small white cards, and they were asking visitors and patrons to attempt to write and explain what Austen meant to them. And I didn't know where to begin. I really didn't know how to write in a couple of sentences what Austen personally meant to me, but other people had done a much more wonderful job, and lots of these cards were saved and stuck to the walls of a separate exhibition space at the back of the house. And in this room you are just surrounded by the words and love and appreciation of Austen by everyone who has come to the museum over this summer, and it is an entire room full of individual reasons why Austen has remained and continues to be just a beloved and esteemed writer. So we know the rooms at the front of the house were rented by Austen and Cassandra here, and we also know that because she wrote about the view from that particular front window looking out over those gardens. And the rooms at the back of the house are unknown. They potentially could have been lodgings for other persons. After her death, Austen's body was laid out at the College Street address. Her family then would pay their respects before she was transferred to Winchester Cathedral on the 24th of July. Jane is buried and interred at the cathedral, and it was a small, modest ceremony. I think only her 3 brothers and her nephew walked alongside the coffin. I don't believe the etiquette at the time was for women to often attend funerals, but do correct me if I'm wrong. She would have passed through the streets of Winchester, and Cassandra described her leaving as, quote, "I watched the little mournful procession the length of the street, and when it turned from my sight, I had lost her forever. And even then I was not overpowered, nor so much agitated as I am now in writing of it." If you do want to visit Winchester, the cathedral has also become a pilgrimage for Jane Austen fans too, because that is her resting place. And I really appreciated the opportunity to actually visit this space. I really hope that they are able in the future to keep it open or to raise enough money so that it becomes a permanent attraction. I think it's so important in understanding the life of Austen. If you have made it this far, I just wanted to say thank you for spending some time with me to learn a little bit more perhaps about Austen. And if there's anything that I've missed out that you think is particularly valuable about her passing, please do leave it in the comments below. I have repeatedly quoted a really good biography of Austen. It's the Claire Tomlin biography, but I know there are others out there. I know there's a newer one out by Janet Todd that I would really like to read, and that's meant to be great too. But that would be a really good go-to resource if you are new to wanting to learn more biographically about Jane Austen. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will speak to you very soon. Take care.